So perhaps I should introduce Alfredo to our team. I'm not sure if it's only Alfredo going to present or if there's any other colleague.
Hola, Mauricio.
Pues pasemos a español ahora, ¿no?
My colleague Neelam is also going to be joining us. So it's going to be a presentation in Spanish and English.
Perfect. So,
Hi, thanks.
Carolina. Thank you, Carolina, for being here with us. Okay, thank you for being with us. Alfredo, and Nilam is connecting. So I would like to introduce Alfredo and Nilam. They are Presentacions. They are going to present a study that they conducted as PGS consults for a United States firm. I introduce you both, Alfredo and Nilam. Thank you for being here. Here we are, 36 students from Colombia. They are right now very excited working pretty much the same that you eventually did with 3 North American companies. It's the first time that we do it. So we were at the very beginning when we were planning this, we wanted to perhaps having this previous experience that maybe is going to be very helpful for them because they don't know what to expect and what will be like the result looks like at the end, and perhaps they have a lot of questions. They are a little bit anxious about these huge projects and the size of the companies and everything. So we really appreciate that you are here with us today and all this knowledge and advice that you are going to give us. Okay. So thank you so much for being here. And perhaps if you want to briefly introduce yourselves, please feel free to start. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having us, Mauricio, and good to see you again. My name's Neelam Hadaf. I'm a current student at Presidio Graduate School. I'm on my last semester, and Ocean to Table was a project that we worked on in our operations and supply chain management course. And in addition to being a student at Presidio, I'm also the admissions ambassador as well.
Thank you, Nilam, for your introduction. I don't know, Alfredo, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Alfredo González Valenzuela. Soy de Perú y vivo acá en Estados Unidos. And I am now a graduate of the Presidio MBA program. So yeah, I'm really excited. I got to meet Mauricio while he was up here and gave him a little tour of the Bay Area, and just excited to have an opportunity to speak with some brothers and sisters from Colombia. Estaban ahí hace unos meses y me encantó el país, y ojalá que esta presentación sea una buena útil para ustedes, ¿no? So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to actually run through a quick exercise. And the exercise is really for us to start thinking about what it's like to work in teams. I know that some of your teams are going to be really big, like I think 12 people or more. So I am leaving this link here, and I would like for you to copy and paste it. Maybe on the chat. And you just go in, you don't have to pay anything. No tienen que pagar nada, solo entran, haz clic el link y queremos que respondas la pregunta ¿cuál es de tus experiencias malas trabajando en grupos? ¿Cómo lo describes? So for English, it's if in your group experiences, how would you describe the bad ones?
it says now that is waiting for Alfredo Gonza. Yeah, now we have. Lo malo. Yeah, people, señores, la idea es que respondan rápidamente cuáles son las cosas malas que ustedes han tenido en experiencias trabajando en grupo, ¿ok?
Y creo que puede ser, no necesariamente tiene que ser trabajo, ¿no? De repente es un grupo que un proyecto más pequeño o algo así, ¿no? No tiene que ser bien profesional o formal. Ok, bacán. Entonces, estoy recibiendo algunos. Voy a empezar a leerlos rápidamente. Time availability and point of view. Falta de compromiso. It's kind of bad when the whole group's goals are not aligned. It makes everything harder. Gente que va en coche, people that doesn't work enough. Do not understand the concepts of collaborative. Mala comunicación, no usar las habilidades y conocimientos de otros. Administrar genios, work overload. Puntos de vista irreconciliables. Diferentes ritmos de trabajar que pueden retrasar los resultados. Different rhythms of work that could be delayed in the results. Sometimes I don't understand certain points of my colleagues. Resistance for change. Just one person works. Okay, I think we're getting a hold of what we're talking about here, right? Canales de comunicación sin participación. I think communication is going to be big. Okay. So Neelam, I'm seeing this as really helpful. There's agreement, the bad things that the manager and time the meetings. So yeah, this is what we wanted to get from you, because ultimately those are the things that we're going to be talking about at the end of the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague Neelam, and she's going to walk you through the project that we did for our EL during our time at Presidio Graduate School. So Neelam, I'll let you take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we worked with Ocean to Table. So a little bit about Ocean to Table. They were founded in 2013 by EAN and Charlie. They serve community-supported fishery, wholesale, and restaurants. They have 3 steps: notification of the catch, place an order, or deliver or pick up. The fish that they have are black cod, petrel sole, halibut, rockfish, Dungeness crab, king salmon, and sablefish. In addition to fish, they also sell mushrooms. So they sell chanterelles, lobster mushroom, morels, black trumpets, hedgehogs, and bolites.
Whoops.
Next slide. And so here's today's fish. So here's what they would be catching would be like a rainbow trout. The catching area was Moss Landing. The date that it was caught was December 6, 2019, and the captain was Christina. So this was a really exciting day for them. And here's an example of a few restaurants that they sell to. Bird Dog, this is located in Palo Alto, kind of where Pam mentioned where she lives. And also Firefish Grill, which is in Santa Cruz, which is where their headquarters is located. And their community-supported fishery, CSF. Alfredo, do you want to explain what that is?
Sure. So as I recall, the community supported fishery is basically a group of individuals that help transport the fish that is caught all the way to the individuals that are actually purchasing the fish from Ocean to Table.
Do you think it would be worth it to also explain that in Spanish?
Yeah, entonces lo que pasa es que la compañía se llama Ocean to Table, ¿no? Es una compañía bien pequeñita que está en la ciudad de Santa Cruz, en el norte de California o medio centro de California. Y la compañía básicamente va a recoger pescados y algún otro tipo de comida. Y cuando lo trae a la ciudad de Santa Cruz y a los alrededores, tiene un grupo que no solo trabaja para ellos, pero es como un grupo que es parte de la comunidad que les ayuda a distribuir todos los recursos que ellos traen, ¿no? Los pescados y todo eso. Entonces, justamente en ese tipo de distribución se llama el grupo el Community Supported Fishery.
Thank you. And then next slide, please.
Y una cosita más que quería agregar es que lo que hacen diferente ellos que otros lugares de repente no lo hacen es que lo sirven por el supermercado, ¿no? Lo tienen en supermercado como han visto en las fotos, pero también con este grupo lo hacen, cosa que lo hacen entrega de barrio a barrio, de calle en calle. Entonces, las personas ya reciben su pescado ya con hielo, con todo, y está al frente de su puerta.
And then here's our operational reach and breakdown. So as you could see, this is the different places that they traveled from. So 0% to wholesale, and then 0% to CSF. And then what we did was we mapped out and broke down different places that they traveled to. And then Alfredo can walk you through their process map.
Y básicamente la ciudad de Santa Cruz está acá, acá está el Silicon Valley y San Francisco está acá. Entonces, la compañía da pescado básicamente alrededor de Santa Cruz, así como también en restaurantes que están en el Silicon Valley. Y básicamente el proceso que tenían en ese entonces era, ¿no? Van a buscar a los pescados, agarran los pescados, lo traen en términos de regresarlo a la ciudad de Santa Cruz, donde tienen ahí su negocio mismo. Después ya lo preparan los pescados y desde que lo preparan los pescados hasta que lo venden a los consumidores, ¿no? Justamente en acá era el proceso que ellos querían mejorar en términos del plástico que utilizan, pero también en términos de qué tipo de autos utilizan. Entonces, cuando nos conocimos con ellos, básicamente nos dijeron que queremos mejoras en la transportación del producto y qué tipo de plásticos utilizamos con el producto. Entonces, como les dije, ahí tienen el carro que estaba utilizando anteriormente y los plásticos que estaban utilizando anteriormente. Y lo que hicimos es básicamente un análisis de cada carro que tienen. Entonces, acá en la parte izquierda pueden ver cada carro que tienen. Y lo que hicimos es encontrar qué tipo de gasolina utilizan, cuántas millas salen por el galón, porque en acá utilizamos millas, no utilizamos kilómetros. Entonces, de ahí podemos calcular más o menos cuánto carbón emite cada carro. Y según a eso podemos hacer también estimados de cuánta gasolina van a gastar, cuánto deberían pagar a las personas que están manejando cada carro y mantenimiento de cada carro. Entonces, la mayoría de estos números que ven acá son números que hemos encontrado por vía de hacer una búsqueda, una pesquisa en Google, ¿no? Y lo siguiente que hicimos también es encontrar algunos métodos que nos ayudan a estimar más o menos cómo es que las emisiones y cómo es que las distancias de repente van a cambiar según movernos de carros que utilizan gasolina a carros eléctricos, porque ellos están interesados en reducir el footprint, ¿no? Lo que es las emisiones de carbón. Entonces utilizamos esta software de Minds y también una calculadora que tiene una organización llamada Union of Concerned Scientists. Y básicamente, go ahead.
Okay, and then so this shows carbon emissions that was based on the current fleet and how it compares to their packaging. Here are the results of the calculations that we got. The Mini Cooper was being used the most to transport a high amount of deliveries. And then on the next slide, we have the CO2 grams estimate per year. As you can see, the Mini Cooper was at 32%, the Subaru was at 26%, packaging was at 5%, the F-150 was at 13%, and the Chevy van was at 24%.
Entonces, en términos de transportación, lo que hicimos es lo siguiente. La compañía estaba en un momento de que querían invertir dinero, ¿no? Entonces, lo que pasó es que querían invertir y sacar mucho más pescado del océano. Entonces, querían como una inversión que les pueda ayudar a transferir más pescado en más grandes cantidades. Entonces, lo que hicimos es, les encontramos una troca o un camión, no sé cómo le llaman allá en Colombia, pero así uno de estos, ¿no? Cosa que en ahí lo meten el pescado y le meten el hielo y todo lo que tú quieras y se puede mantener más largo tiempo, ¿no? El pescado y lo pueden vender por más tiempo. Entonces, uno de estos camiones que encontramos costaba alrededor de $100,000 y esa fue la primera parte de la recomendación. La segunda parte fue comprar estos 4 carros. Bueno, eran realmente 3 porque uno de ellos ya lo tenían. Pero básicamente todos los carros eran eléctricos, más o menos 40 a 30 mil dólares cada uno, cosa que con cada carro no tienen que estar pagando gasolina y en vez de estar pagando lo que es la electricidad, ¿no? Porque ya no van a estar pagando ya el gas. Entonces,
electricity there?
Sí.
Or is,
Yeah, they have different places where they have EV stations. They also have now these things that you have them installed, like these packs that charge your car in either your store or your house, and yeah, it's just that's just the way the world is going, I guess, you know. Yeah. So in addition to, you know, moving from the truck to the bigger truck, we did an analysis also of how that would impact them per year. Entonces, si ven estos baldecitos, bueno, son baldesotes, no son grandes, unos baldes bien grandes que básicamente transporta 2, lo que llaman totes, que no es una tonelada, pero un poco menos que una tonelada. O creo que es media tonelada, no creo que es una tonelada, pero bueno, el punto es que anteriormente con la camioneta que tenían solo podían transportar 2 totes, ¿no? Y ahora con la nueva inversión van a poder transportar 4. Entonces con ese assumption o con esos puntos para poder calcular, hicimos este análisis, cosa que cuando regresamos con las recomendaciones a los propietarios de Charlie y Ian, les podíamos decir, mira, si haces la inversión de cambiarte de este camión al otro camión, esto es lo que vas a ganar el siguiente año. Y esto es lo que te va a costar. Entonces, en ahí les puedes enseñar los números y cómo construir el caso del negocio, ¿no? Y obviamente en ahí después le puedes meter la nota del carbon emissions y les puedes decir que obviamente que vas a poder gastar un poco más, un poco menos, depende de cada carro, pero en términos de emisiones de carbón va a bajar porque simplemente hay recursos que podemos utilizar en vez del carbón, ¿no? Ahora, en la nota de packaging, que es básicamente plástico y todo eso, no cambió tanto porque obviamente es un problema mucho más grande y por más que quisimos encontrar alternativas, ya sea hoja de plátano o algo así, es como se puso más difícil la nota simplemente porque es un pescado y por lo menos en California hay muchas más regulaciones en términos de cómo lo vendes el pescado y no se pudo hacer tanto mucho ahí. Entonces lo que hicimos siguiente es básicamente construir como un mapa, ¿no? De cómo es que lo van a implementar las recomendaciones que hemos hecho, porque para ellos es bueno entender también qué es lo que pasa en abril, qué es lo que pasa en junio, porque esos son meses cuando los negocios están haciendo mucho de sus taxes, los impuestos, porque así es el calendario de acá en California y en Estados Unidos. Entonces, de repente es una buena cosa para acordarse, ¿no? Y anotarlo de si van a hablar con sus clientes y les está diciendo, ¿sabes qué? Que en mayo vamos a estar bien ocupados o que en diciembre vamos a estar bien ocupados. De repente tu recomendación no les pongas, pues, pucha, todo el trabajo para diciembre, ¿no? Entonces, eso es lo que hicimos, un tipo de mapa para cada carro y para el camión también. Y lo mismo con los plásticos, ¿no? Les encontramos unos plásticos que son más reusables, cosa que lo que estábamos hablando del community fishery, de repente ese grupo de participantes están más animados y quieren hacer toda la nota de reciclar y reusar. Entonces les dijimos, mira, pueden hacer esto en este periodo y pueden ahí tener su proyecto piloto y de repente en ahí avanza mejor. Entonces, nuestras recomendaciones fueron bien específicas y al final del día no teníamos toda la información, pero con hacer una búsqueda en Google es probable que lo puedas encontrar. So finally, we just thought we may just speak on each other's experiences, because it may be good for you all that are in the call as students to hear from students as well, so that you know what's you're walking into. You don't want to be shocked. And I think some of these comments like bad communication, lack of commitment and agreement and all these things are true, and you will face them. So it's good to just, I think for me, talk about it. So Neelam, I'm gonna just go through mine and then please jump in and share your perspective.
Yeah,
if that's okay.
Definitely.
I nailed down my 5 tips for you all, and I'm gonna just let you know really quick in Spanish. Comiencen en la misma página. Asegúrense que ya sea Mauricio o otra persona con que están trabajando sepa de cuáles son las metas. Porque el momento que están comunicándose también con el profesor, creo que hay un entendimiento ahí. Y si algo pasa con el cliente o algo pasa con uno de tus compañeros, de ahí otra vez a empezar a hablar, ¿no? Porque el momento que hablan en ahí, creo que siguen en la misma página. Segundo es, estén con certeza de cuáles son los entregables, ¿no? Si están hablando con el cliente y ustedes dicen, ¿sabes qué? Para el fin del proyecto quiero tener una recomendación específicamente con esto y esto y aquello. Entonces, si han dicho sí a esa recomendación y eso es lo que van a entregar, entonces ese es el trabajo que tienen que hacer. Ahora, si cambia, otra vez tienen que comunicar, ¿no? Pero tienen que estar seguros de lo que están entregando. La tercera parte que es importante también es establecer modos de comunicación. Hay muchas aplicaciones hoy día, ya sea por WhatsApp, por Slack, por email. Creo que va a ser bien importante si son un grupo de 10, 12 o más, que estén comunicándose a cada rato. Especialmente si van a estar ahí con el cliente, les recomiendo que 2, máximo 3 personas de tu equipo estén ahí juntos con el cliente. No se metan tanto más de 3, porque sabes que es bueno tener una persona que le habla al cliente, la otra persona que escucha y otra persona que toma apuntes y notas, ¿no? Porque más de eso ya un poco más que se pone un poco loco, ¿no? Y el último es, sea auténtico, ¿no? O sea, al final del día, así como ahorita les estoy presentando esta presentación a ustedes, es una presentación que yo hice con Neelam, con 2 otros compañeros míos, y de alguna otra forma yo tengo una diferente forma de ver la economía, yo tengo una diferente forma de hacer negocios, y fue muy importante de mi punto de vista de hablar de la perspectiva que yo tenía, porque al final del día el producto sale y a veces se aparece oportunidades como esta donde puedes presentar lo que has hecho a otras audiencias, a otros lugares, y tienes que sentir un poco de orgullo de lo que has hecho, ¿no? Entonces, si ves algo que se está haciendo mal, habla. Si ves algo que puede empeorar a una situación, habla. Si puedes mejorar otra situación, habla, ¿no? Creo que al final del día, si trabajan como equipo, así como un partido de fútbol, van a ganar el partido y van a estar en una buena posición con tal que hablen con su entrenador, ¿no? Así que esos son mis tips o mis dicas. Y Neelam, please share whatever is relevant here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to overlap a little bit. But yeah, definitely being respectful of your teammates is huge. It's very important to show up for your team. So it's like these projects, you have to understand, like, you're not just working on your own, but there's other people depending on you. And sometimes you do get stuck on finding data, or you will get stuck on clients not sending you data, but that's your time to shine, and that's your time to create your own data. So what we did for a lot of this project ourselves is we created the data, we found the data, we were really scrappy about it, and that helped as well. We had a client lead, we had a team charter, and we did work on each other's strengths, and we worked on each other's weaknesses as well. And one thing that I find really important in any team setting that you're in is transparency. It's so much better to just, if there's a conflict or if there's something going on, it's just so much better to bring it up to the team in a respectful manner and then resolve it, instead of having something in the back of your mind about that teammate and it causing your team to kind of fall apart. You're a team and you're working on this together, and essentially you guys will come up with an amazing project. There were times during this project that I can tell you that we weren't sure if we were going to be able to find the data, but we did. And so with that being said, I think these EL projects really give you a time to kind of like shine and show people showcase what you can do. And you're allowed to be innovative in these projects, and that's what the clients want to see.
Yeah. And I think what helped us, Neelam, is all 4 of our members, we all went to a site visit to visit the Ocean to Table storefront, and we spent like almost half a day there, getting to know the product, getting to know where they were shipping from, getting to know the owners and how they interact. And I think that went a long way to just establishing that relationship and trust before even talking about the work. At least for me, Neelam, I think looking back, that went a long way. So I would encourage everybody to look at the project you're doing and do it in a friendly manner first. Just get comfortable with it rather than being like, all right, let's dive into roles, you know.
Yeah, get to know your team first. I mean, they're going to end up being your best friends for that semester.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something, because you are mentioning something that is very important when we like have the opportunity to do it. You mentioned the site visit, spending time with the client and trying to understand, like in the field, like this in the field perspective. Of course, I think is one of the best approaches. But here we have a huge challenge, two times challenging, because we have this lockdown. We are still in lockdown, and I think we are going to relax our measures or our restrictions, perhaps even at the end of September, perhaps. I'm not sure. So we have like a difficulty in terms of being together physically as a team. There are people that is living in Japan or in Australia here right now connected. And there is also, or in other parts of Colombia, not necessarily Bogota, but perhaps Barranquilla or Medellin. Yeah. So is part one of the challenge, but the other part is we cannot travel to United States either for the COVID restrictions or for the money and time restrictions, so constraints. So what would be your advice for this group to like try to have these insights or try to have this closeness to the business and to the client without being able to be there? What are your thinking on this, your reflections on this?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about last semester with our projects and how COVID hit and we weren't allowed to go to any site visits either for our EL projects. We did a lot of Zoom calls with our partners. So that helped a lot. And right now, I think that's your biggest like platform that you can use is Zoom or online like visits. And we did a lot of secondary research as well on the organization that we were working for. Secondary research comes a very long way. So if you get the chance to do that, I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Nilam.
I think along the same lines, you know, I can recall a number of times when one of our teammates went on YouTube and typed like fisheries plastic or like fisheries in Santa Cruz area. And at least for me as a visual learner, video can go a long way in getting me to feel like I'm there, you know? And if anything, you know, one of the things you could do with the client is like, hey, can you provide us with like your social platforms, and can you provide us with, you know, a time in which you can give us a tour of the work you do? And it's likely they have these presentations done already. It's likely that they have social media presence already. And I think in that way, you can feel closer to it, even in the time of the pandemic and all these things. And to kind of finish that thought is, a lot of times when you do one project for them, they'll come back and ask you to do another project. I think with Ocean to Table, we did this for their operations side of things, and they wanted to do, I think, financing next, right, Neelam?
Yeah. Yes.
So nurture that relationship, because it may be that, you know, in the long run, they come back to you and they're like, hey, you know, now we need help with marketing, or like now we need help with something else. And I think it's just important to nurture those relationships.
Agreed. And I believe they even wanted us to work for them after this project.
It's a possibility, yeah, definitely. It's something that perhaps I briefly explained to my students, but it's often the case that the presidents at the end start working with the companies that they were consulting previously, because the companies are very convinced about their abilities and their values principles. They share the same values principles, and they are happy to hire them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if on the side of the students, people, do you have any questions for Nilam or for Alfredo? Or would you like, Francisco want to ask something?
Yes, especially for Alfredo. Hi, everyone. Alfredo, you know our culture, and you know the culture in US. And I wonder if there is anything special in for paying attention when we are with the customer, especially talking about our cultural differences. You know, I don't know, maybe, for example, I have not an example, but if there is anything special to pay attention in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think it's a hard topic to talk about, right? Because in one side you're managing a client, right? And you want to be in business, right? Generally speaking. But on the other hand, some of the things your client may do may not be aligned with your ethics or with your values. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Or no?
I'm talking about culture in general.
Culture.
Anything special? Yeah.
Like culture
Yeah,
difference. I think he means like in America and there.
Yeah. Like we are Latin Americans, and we are approaching United States companies. So perhaps we have a view, like a view of life, a view of everything that could be different, and it could be challenging to approach in your experience, because you have been there a few years working with this United States culture, different like subcultures in Portland or here in this other part of California. What are your reflections on that?
You know, even just language, right? Like even in English, I cannot fully express myself sometimes, right? Because in my brain, I'm thinking in Spanish or Portuguese. So I think culture is a big factor in all this, because in Cusco, in Brazil, in Peru, in Colombia, we understand our economies differently, right? We understand how we relate to the land differently than in the US, where it's different world. So what I would say here is it depends on each individual, on each company. You know, there's plenty of companies out there that are trying to do sustainability work, that are doing cool work. There's also companies out there who, you know, are more on the side of greenwashing. And that's not to say, you know, that I can think of someone immediately. That's just the reality of the business world with sustainability. So I would say I'm open to just chatting with you more about it. And yeah, I was going to share our contact info here in case you all want to get in touch. You can reach out to me in that way.
Thank you.
Sorry,
you so
I can't
much.
be more helpful right now.
No.
Sorry.
It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue. So it's normal. I wanted to read a question from Luis Francisco. He's saying, could you please tell us something about tell us more about your experience with the team organization? It may be how it could be maybe how did you do the integration of every student responsibilities into your team? Like how could you organize? Obviously, managing a group of 4 or group of 5 is going to be easier than managing a group of 12. I am still figuring out how are we going to do these challenging assignments. But how did you do?
Yeah.
You want to go ahead, Neelam?
Yeah. Should we talk about our team charter, or did you already do that?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so what we do is we create a team charter in the beginning of the semester. First, we get to kind of know each other. We talk a little bit. And during class, like you get about an hour and a half to meet with your team in the beginning. And so when you're meeting with your team, you go over the team charter and you talk about what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your availabilities are, what your time is, what your time constraints are. And from there, you can really start to organize and build and start delegating responsibilities to people. So for our project, we had a team lead that was a 1-point contact person that was constantly like emailing the clients for us, and that was Taylor, who was in our group. And then we had a facilitator, and then we had like a note taker, and then on the meetings, and then we had someone like asking the questions. So really just making it more organized for the client would make it more organized for you as well. Do you want to add anything to that, Alfredo?
Yeah, what I would add is that the roles that we had were different outwards and inwards. Because outwards, it was like, okay, this person's the client lead, and this other person's working in plastics, and you know, this other person's working on that. When we met together, it was like note taker, facilitator, and so you can split up these roles however you want. The other thing that I would add is I had a background in waste management, because I worked in that field for 3 years. And one of our colleagues, for example, was a big fan of fishes. Like no one would make him stop talking about fishes. So when you know that you're good at something, it's good to communicate to the team and say, hey, you know, I'm good at writing, I'm good at at fishes, I'm good at waste or whatever. And then also say, okay, well, my colleague wants to learn about fishes or wants to learn about waste, wants to learn about writing, and treat the semester as an opportunity for them to learn a new skill and really like help each other out in that way. So I think that's all I'll share there.
Thank you. Some other questions on students? Go ahead. Feel free to ask anything that you want, please.
Yes, I would like to know what are your main lesson learning that do you want to share with us regarding with the specific investigation in the field to gathering the information and processing that. Thank you.
Do you want to go, Neelam?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, for us, thinking about the data of the information that we have to gathering, what are your main lesson learning regarding with that in order to get the that bullet points that you have in the presentation? Because the main point of this, I think, is the processing of those data and get at last the last conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the question is related on like big lessons on how to manage information and like what are your main learnings with the managing all this kind of information, like searching the information and presenting and organizing and calculating. If you give us any advice, because these guys are going to collect a lot of information, and like how to deal with all of that is a huge challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so one thing that you do learn in the operations and like supply chain management course is how to manage that data and how to collect the data as well. So Mauricio, I'm not sure, are they going to be taking the class like we did?
No, it's not going to be the same, because we have here, this is pretty unique, because we have here, my class is called Research Seminar.
Okay.
And it's like a semester class where they need to like to learn some skills for researching and delivering in a good way this research to different stakeholders. And they are going to develop at the same time the consultancy results and also their master thesis projects. So they will need to collect a lot of information, and they will need to decide which type of information and in which way they are going to present to the clients. And in the other hand, what type of information and in which way they are going to present in their master thesis projects. But obviously, this is the big 12 team, but they are going to work like in subgroups or sub-teams. I don't know if it's the right word in English, but like a team inside of a team. Yeah, they are going to have like 3 or 4 works inside each big team, and they are going to have like different based on their skills and their background and their interests. They are going to be doing different activities, because the scope of the challenges are bigger in this case. So, but they are going to have access to specialized professors if needed. Yeah, for example, if they need to know specific things about legal stuff, perhaps we can find a lawyer that can help us. Or if they need to know something about I don't know, sustainability metrics, perhaps we have a professor on that area. Like I am just like a facilitator. Like I do some organizing stuff with the teams and provide all this organization. But they are going to be on their own most of the time researching.
Got it. I mean, one way that I could think of that we managed our data was through Microsoft Excel. We use that heavily.
Yeah, definitely. They are. Guy, I think we lost you for a bit, or did you finish?
No, I finished.
Perfect. Yeah, because yeah, they are going to work a lot with Excel because they need to do like models, and they need to build like a scenario analysis and all these things. You mentioned a software that you use for measuring like waste and carbon footprint, and
Yeah.
of course I know the software because I was in one of the residencies. So, but
Sustainable.
perhaps you could, yeah, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the software, please.
The Union of Concerned Scientists is just a website. You just Google it and look up like gasoline to electric conversion, and that's how you end up getting a calculator online. Sustainable Minds is a software that I think we had to purchase for $40 or something like that. It basically has a database of carbon equivalents for any piece of material you have, from metals, plastics, aluminum, steel, all those things. And what you can, build a guitar in there and find out the carbon footprint for it, how much water it will take, and then you can make the guitar more environmentally friendly by making it like, less something. And
From the
yeah,
cradle to the grave.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Another thing I would add is take, for example, the example of the cars, right? Let's say that there is no Mini Cooper in the space your client is working at, for an example, right? Because there's no data, and this car is, XYZ car, I don't know, some car that we don't have any data for right now. And let's just say that my client is wondering, what the carbon emissions are for that car, but you Google it on Google and it's like, nope, no data there, and you can't find anything. One thing I would do is, well, what's the engine type? Find out the engine type, and once you find out the engine type, find out the how efficient it is, miles per gallon or whatever. And once you have that, I think you can say, okay, well, we didn't find data for this car, but you know what? The Mini Cooper is just slightly above that, and we have data for that. So we're using the Mini Cooper with that and work with the Mini Cooper data and do all the models with the Mini Cooper data. And if at some point you find data for the car that you cannot find, which is the XYZ, then you can just update your model and reflect those changes in your model, and you still have the data. So don't let lack of data hold you back from creating models. You can still create models and find, some kind of result, and just make sure you're tracking back to the assumptions you're making. If you're assuming you're using 5 gallons per mile, then just make sure everybody's in the same understanding as that.
Thank you. Yeah, this is very important. Pamela is saying, don't be afraid to interview experts. Some people are afraid and delayed interviews. Don't stop when waiting for some data. Be creative and find other data in the meantime. Don't let the client expand the project's scope without reminding them about the original scope. So yeah, this is pretty related with the question, or this is the answer for the question of Laura. Laura was asking, what would you not recommend us to do during the development of the project? For example, something that could cause delays or reprocesses in the information. I don't know if you want to add something else.
I would definitely have to agree with Pam. Don't wait for someone else for data. And I say this all the time. This is your chance to be innovative with your data. And when you're innovative, like I mentioned before, that's when you really impress your clients.
Thank you. Any other question? Wilson and Jonathan are want to ask something. First could be Wilson
Yes.
and then Jonathan, please.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet with you here. My name is Wilson Villamizar, and until now, I have been working in Colombian industry as I'm going to try to use the words of the procedure course that we are making, that I feel like a vendor, right? Because I work until now, or have been working until now with not the CEO of the companies, only with intermediate chief or in a company. So in this case, we are dealing with the CEO or with the main manager. So maybe my question is how to, if in your experience, maybe, what is your best advice to trying to turn our minds or maybe our kind of questions to abort this kind of role in the company as a CEO, and if maybe you have some guidelines that can help us to develop our consultants.
Yeah, like they are worried because like until now they have been working with middle range managers, yeah, not top managers, not the head of a big multinational, or the entrepreneur that was the creator of the startup. How to be strategic, how not to be asking, how not to ask the wrong questions, how not to waste clients' time. What these are their genuine preoccupations. What are your reflections on that?
I'm wondering, Neelam, if you and Alfredo want to go first, and then I'm happy to answer after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just one thing that's like worked for me in the past and on my projects, sorry, Mauricio, can you kind of repeat the question? I was having a hard time understanding.
Yeah, definitely. Don't worry. Like they are like they have been used to work with middle range managers
Okay.
or chiefs or even just analysts. Yeah, they are not used to talk with the CEOs of the companies or the founders of the companies. Some of them. I'm not saying all of them, but perhaps some of them. Yeah, and they are worried not to make the wrong questions, not to make the clients lose their time, not to be like look like I'm just a very beginner or not a truly consultant. Yeah, at the beginning there is a lot of afraid to be in that position. What are your reflections on that?
I mean, my reflections from the projects that I've worked on, I feel that the clients will like respect you if you give them that respect as well. But I also feel like working with mid managers and working with like CEOs or company, like when we worked with Ocean to Table, they were very down to earth people. So it's not like I didn't feel like we were working with like people who didn't treat us like we were their colleagues as well, or even like when I worked with VMware or with any of the other organizations, it's not that terrifying, I promise you. Like just because they're at the CEO level, it doesn't mean that they want to bash you or they're looking down on you. If anything, if they're at that level, you'll learn a lot more from them as well. And Pam, do you want to add anything to that?
I think Neelam is right, and Alfredo, I read your response, and you're also right. There's no bad question. We are all learning. So it's hard for me to say because I have been a CEO, and so it's hard to remember from before that. But all three of these clients, Deborah and Bryant and Chance, they are such nice people. Just think of them as nice people who want to learn to do the right thing. Don't think of them as being a vice president or a CEO or founder. Just think of them as being on the same team as you. You're all nice people. They're very nice. They want to learn. And it's fine to say, I don't know if this is a good question, but I'm curious about this. That'd be so nice. Please don't worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like people actually appreciate questions too, Pam. In addition to what you said, I feel like the clients want you to ask those tough questions, and they're going to respect you more for that as well. So, and when you said Chance, did you mean Chance that went to Presidio? He's wonderful. I had classes with him, and
Yes.
you guys would love him if you guys are going to work on a project with him.
That's the one.
There is one team that is working with Chance, and we have a meeting this week with the Fish in the Fields project, and it was
Yeah,
the
that's an
last
amazing
week, and
project.
it was yeah, it is. It's very, very interesting. What I'm telling to my students is these are not these are very interesting projects, because it's basically about like creating a new business model somehow in a different country with different particular things. Yeah, obviously they are overwhelmed, but if they did that in United States, and they have a lot of information they are going to share with you, I think it's going to be easier for you to find these good alternatives for them in these markets, definitely. Any other question? I think Jonathan was going to ask something.
Yes, Mauricio. Well, I have seen your project, and I love it. It's beautiful. Well, I got some questions regarding the data set. And yeah, you took it from theory into practice. And the data that you collected from the theory into the practice, how different was it when you, took it into reality?
I'm not sure if you could understand, because there was a small, or at least in my case, I couldn't. Can you please repeat the question again, because we couldn't get the whole question. Sorry.
Okay. The project that you have carried was from theory into the practice, and the data that you have gathered from the theory, when you applied that into the reality, how different was it? For example, the emissions calculations and the financial stats.
I don't know if you get that, but
I think I
basically
understand the
like,
question, Mauricio.
Perfect.
To answer your question, the project, when we finished it, it was before the pandemic, and so I haven't followed up with them to see if they purchased the truck and the cars. So until I do that and find out if they did, and then model the carbon emissions that the cars are making if they purchase them, then I don't know if it's fact, if it's true, and it's practitioner, right? So in terms of moving from theory to practice, I think that's something that you're gonna be, you may have to follow up with your client later on and ask, hey, have you implemented our recommendations? Maybe Pam knows, but I'm not quite sure whether or not Ocean to Table has implemented our recommendations yet.
I like the question that Jonathan is asking, because it shows that he cares about the client's end result.
Right.
Too often, consultants go on to the next project and forget about the client they just served, and that's not good. We want to keep in touch with our client. I'm not saying Alfredo and Neelam because that was a class project, so no, there's nothing they did wrong. But we want to keep learning and keep going back and helping that client again and again, as Alfredo said before. So the difference between theory and practice, we just have to go back to the client and ask, and they'll appreciate it.
Thank you. I think perhaps we have a space for one more question because we are running out of time. Luis Enrique, can you please ask, did you raise your hand?
Okay, this will be more like a personal question. Alfredo and Neelan, in which way do you consider this project have changed your future goal or your professional point of view?
Do you want to go ahead, Neelam?
You can go ahead first.
Okay. So now that I've graduated, what's been cool about doing this has been that I can use it as a reference to interview at different places. You know, my background is not on energy per se, so I've been able to utilize this as means of showcasing my interest and some experience with electric cars. It also has opened up the doors for me to then learn more about the electricity and energy field and just become more interested in it and pursue opportunities in that sense.
Yeah, and something like some of my key takeaways and some things that I learned a lot about fish species during this project. There was a time where we had to dive into their QuickBooks and do an analysis and clean up the data there. And I just learned so much from like different species of fish, like what they're worth, like how do they go, just from like the operations and just like the way that they move and just how much like thought goes into each like fish and like each fillet, and just the fact that like you can do things in a supply chain in a sustainable manner. I feel like that's what I took out of this project. And I also learned that for me, so this actually kind of touches on the cultural aspect. This is my first time working on a team with just boys. And so it was interesting. I enjoyed it because I felt like it was more like I keep going back to this transparency thing. And that's how it was. It was just transparency. And we just told each other like, hey, you do this, you do that. Let's come together as a team and collaborate. So that's pretty much kind of what I took away from this project.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all of you for your answers, your presentation, your very good advice. I don't know, Pamela, if you want to add something at the very end of this meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you, Mauricio. One more thing about culture is there was an excellent question about what are some of the differences in culture between North America and Latin America. And I'll say that all three of these clients want to know the Colombian culture. They want to know for their business, what are the local cultures that are different from theirs? So you are the expert in the local culture, and they want you to talk about how people think and buy and purchase there in Colombia. What are some things that they care about? Some things may be the same as in North America, but please let them know what you think. That is partly why they chose to do this project with you. And finally, I'd like to thank so much Neelam and Alfredo for their wonderful presentation. And Mauricio, again, thank you for your partnership. And students, thank you so much for all of your excellent questions and participation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you guys. Thank you, Laura, for making this possible today and your organization. I think I am going to stay here with my colleagues because we are going to talk. We need to finish a workshop that we started the last week, so I think we are going to take the rest of the time to do it. So thank you again so much for everything. This was incredible moment and with a lot of learning from our side. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Nilam and Alfredo. Thank you so much.
Nos vemos, un abrazo, cuídate.
Un abrazo. Goodbye. Thank you so much for everything. Bueno, mis estimados, switching to Spanish, ¿cómo les pareció?